Good evening, members. Welcome to this meeting of full council. I'm Councillor Diana Garrett, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing the meeting this evening. This meeting is being webcast via the Council's YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome all those in attendance and those watching the meeting online. We're not expecting a fire alarm this evening. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. Please can I remind everyone in the chamber to ensure they have their mobile phones switched to silent to avoid disruptions to this evening's business. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours. I would be grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issue being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please could you indicate by clearly raising your hand. Before I commence with this evening's business, further to the email sent by governance to all members on Friday, members will recall that at the annual meeting of the Council, it was agreed that questions of the leader will be brought forward in the meeting. It is noted that the agenda as published places this item at the last item on the agenda for this evening's meeting, and in order to ensure that we follow the order of business as agreed, I'll be using my discretion as chairman of this meeting to reorder the agenda and will therefore be moving item 18 up the agenda and will be taking this item immediately after this evening's motion, scheduled as item 8 on the agenda. I will now proceed to the first item of business, agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies for absence from the following councillors: Jackie Pell, James Abbott, Andy Munday, and I believe that's all actually. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So there are no further apologies to note? Great. Thank you, members. We will proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest that they wish to declare this evening? If so, please could you state the item and the nature of your interest? Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The item on the cycling strategy, I'm an active member of the North Essex Greenways cycling group, and I can't stand up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Staines?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a member of Parishes Against the Incinerator, UNESCO World Heritage bid for Finchinfield, and an owner of a leisure community business in Coggeshall, which may come up as tourism and or leisure.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Thank you. Thank you, members. We will proceed to agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. I would like to confirm that we are asking members to approve the minutes of the meeting of full council held on Monday, the 4th of September 2023, which have been circulated to all members and published on the council's website. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record of the meeting held on the 4th of September 2023?
Move, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Butland, thank you. Have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. The minutes have been moved and seconded as an accurate record. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. All those against at all? No? And any abstentions?
I didn't attend in September, so I don't like to vote for a meeting without attending.
Okay. Councillor Thorogood, that's fine. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved, and I will now sign the minutes. Thank you. Thank you, members. We will now proceed to agenda item 4, public question time. Members, we have one registered speaker for this evening's meeting. Registered speakers have 3 minutes each to make their statements or ask a question. A warning bell will be sounded at the expiry of the 3 minutes, and the registered speaker must cease speaking at that time if they have not already done so. Peter Cole, do you wish to speak about the Greenway North Essex project? Thank you, Mr. Cohn. You have 3 minutes to ask your question.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Peter Cohn. I'm the chair of Greenway North Essex, previously EC2K. That's a project that looks to create a safe cycleway between Kelvedon and Halstead through Coggeshall and Earl's Colne. The central section between Coggeshall and Earl's Colne is the most advanced and has had £43,000 worth of preparatory work done on it, consisting of a feasibility study and design and tendering documentation. Planning permission, which had previously been granted, had expired, and to account for minor route changes and the need to comply with the latest government guidance, we reapplied in August. Braintree has been successful in getting funding for safe cycle routes in the town itself and worked to update the LC whips for Braintree and Witham. And I've been happy to contribute to the formulation of the cycling strategy, which is reported on later in this agenda, and to the LC whip work. I believe this is of fundamental importance to the district in the future, both from environmental and health reasons. The Greenway North Essex project is the potential start of a village-to-village network of safe greenways throughout the district to add to the existing Flitch Way. We've done the planning for the central section, got agreement from its landowners, and secured substantial local buy-in. None of this would have been achieved without massive voluntary effort. The next year is critical. Sustrans have costed the route and broken it down into bite-sized pieces so that the route could be done in segments over the 3-year period if necessary. Makes it more achievable. My questions to the councillors this evening are about how BDC could help this project to achieve funding. Capital projects are expensive, and I would imagine that most funding will need to come from institutional bodies through a bidding process. So my suggested help to you would be 3 things. BDC potentially being a co-signatory on bids to give them added heft. Ensuring that the Greenway North Essex routes are included in the county-wide LC whip, which is currently planned. And the final thing, the first contribution will attract other potential contributors to join in. Could Braintree work with the county to add this to the capital programme, either from slippage or as part of the programme for the next year? This project has the attraction of being shovel-ready and achievable in 1 financial year.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. I'd like to invite Councillor Ritchie as Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Inward Investment to respond to Mr. Cole's question. Mr. Cole, please note that you do not have a right of reply to this. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In fact, I think I'll defer to my colleague Gabrielle Spray, who's heading up the cycling strategy now. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Spray. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to thank Mr. Cohn for his very thoughtful statement. He is a very valued member of the Cycling Steering Group, which I chair. He always makes extremely good contributions. I am appreciative of his statement tonight, and we will take on board the comments he's made and questions, and we'll have a look very seriously at what he is asking. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Thank you, Councillor Cohn, for your question. You're welcome to remain and observe the remainder of this evening's meeting. Alternatively, you are free to leave should you wish to do so. Thank you again for your attendance. Councillor Butland.
Madam Chairman, I apologise for not having raised this with you earlier, but we have 2 presentations, and I wonder whether we might, under the standing orders, just change the order so that those presentations can be made before you and I make our statements and we get into the main business of the meeting. If you would be agreeable, I hope members of the council would find that acceptable as well.
Yes, I am agreeable to that. Thank you, Councillor Butland. Right, members, the reply by Councillor Spray concludes this evening's public question time session. So we will now just adjust the agenda. So can we go to this one? Yeah. We will proceed to agenda item 6, presentation by Essex Police to Braintree District Council Community Safety Accreditation Scheme for the Long Service Award. Members, tonight we are pleased to welcome Inspector Phil Jackson and PC Dan Ricketts from Essex Police, who are attending to present the Council with a Long Service Award in respect of the Community Safety Accreditation Scheme. Please can I invite Inspector Jackson and PC Dan Ricketts to come forward to make the presentation.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address the Council this evening. I'm here to speak to you briefly regarding the Community Safety Accreditation Scheme. For those of you that aren't aware what the scheme is, this is a national scheme that was introduced in 2002 as part of the Police Reform Act. Essex Police adopted it in 2005, and this allows the CSAS organisations and their employees that are involved in community safety and traffic management the opportunity to be accredited with limited powers by the Chief Constable to further assist them within their current roles. There is a commitment between both police and organisations accredited under the CSAS to work together to tackle low-level crime and disorder and antisocial behaviour and to make communities safer for individuals to live, work and visit. Essex Police has got one of the most successful community safety accreditation schemes nationally, with over 400 accredited persons across 39 organisations in Essex, all working in partnership to try and resolve community and social issues too complex for one agency to resolve on their own. These companies are both private and publicly owned and have a patrol or public safety function. CSAS allows us to share information, intelligence, and in order to protect and detect crime and antisocial behaviour. Braintree Council itself has been involved in the scheme since 2006, where it first accredited its first 8 community parish rangers and have remained a member to this date. And in recognition of that 17 years worth of service, I'd like to present you with a plaque and certificate for your work in partnership with Essex Police.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to accept this very prestigious award. It's so nice for the council to be recognised for the contributions that they make. So we're absolutely delighted. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask our Cabinet member in a moment to respond in full. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Inspector Jackson and I should have done our homework because I'm about to say very much what you've said, so I'm not going to repeat it all again. But I will just say that I've been in this role for about 7 or 8 months, and I've seen at close proximity the excellent working relationship that BDC, different teams, particularly the operations team of the street scene. I know our environmental health officer, I believe, is accredited, and I think the markets officer. So I've seen the excellent close working relationship you have. And I will say, and I've heard Chief Inspector Richards say too, the aim of all of this is to see our residents benefit, and I think they do, brilliantly. So thank you very much indeed. We're very pleased to accept this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham, and thank you, Inspector Jackson and PC Ricketts, for your attendance this evening. Again, you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but you're also welcome to leave at this point if you wish to do so. Thank you very much. Members, we will now proceed to agenda item 7, presentation of the Essex Plainfields Awards. Members, for this item, I would like to invite Councillor Tom Cunningham, Cabinet Member for Transformation, the Environment and Customer Services, to introduce and present the award. Before I do, I understand we have some officers in attendance this evening, namely Robin Jarvis, Andy Potter, Phil Shears and Roger Grace. Welcome to this evening's meeting of full council. Councillor Cunningham, please can you make your presentation?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman and member colleagues. It falls on me this year to do the vote of thanks and the presentation for what has now become a very nice annual tradition. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me all right? Oh, you can, sorry, you're good. This is what happens every year. Our representatives of Braintree District Council, our excellent staff, and joined by our Vice Chairman this year, go to the Essex Playing Field Awards and come back with most of the awards for Braintree District Council. It's an annual event which we've been delighted to continue this year, and it's a great tribute to the wonderful work of our team who do such a fantastic job looking after our playing fields. Once again, underlying the commitment and reaffirming our commitment to keeping our open spaces in a fantastic condition, and it's down to their dedication and application and real passion for what they do. So, gentlemen, please don't be shy. Come on forward to accept our round of applause. So, as the chairman said, Robin, Andy, Phil, and Roger, come on forward, gentlemen. And, gentlemen, you know as well as I do, an interested observer in Northamptonshire, Mrs. W. Smith, will be very delighted to know that we've got another fine presentation, but actually got 6 more awards this year than last year. So standards haven't dropped, far from it. Once again, gentlemen, you've excelled yourself. Again, thank you very much for all you do, all you've done in the past, all you continue to do. And we look forward to welcoming you back next year with another fine trawl of awards. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham, and thank you to the officers for being here this evening. Of course, you are welcome to remain and observe the remainder of this evening's meeting. Alternatively, you are free to leave, should you wish to do so. Thank you very much. Right, we will now go back to agenda item 5, announcements and statements from the Chairman and the Leader of the Council. Since the last meeting of Council in September, I have attended another 36 engagements. There has been a wide variety of visits. I kicked off the Christmas festivities with the light switch on at George Yard during the big Christmas market held on the 25th of November. It was great to see the town so busy and so many happy faces. I hosted an autumnal supper at Braintree Museum back in October, which was very well attended and received. Guests enjoyed a tour of the museum, followed by a warming supper supplied by the Booking Hall Cafe, a Braintree-themed quiz and a raffle with proceeds going to the Salvation Army. I'm looking forward to my Christmas service this week and hope that as many of you are able to join me at the church service as possible, being held at St Peter's Church tomorrow evening at 6:15. A full list of the engagements I have attended since the last meeting of full council will be published on the council's website. Thank you, members. I understand Councillor Butland would like to provide members with an update on Wethersfield and has indicated that he is happy to take questions immediately afterwards. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for agreeing to change the order. Madam Chairman, members will know that since my last update to full council on the 4th of September, the Home Office's plans for housing asylum seekers on the Wethersfield site have continued, and we understand that there are now approximately 560 people located on the site. Members will be aware of the recent judicial review legal proceedings we pursued against the Home Office, challenging them on their decision to use the site as an asylum accommodation centre. Madam Chairman, we were initially given permission by the High Court to proceed with our challenge alongside those of 2 other judicial reviews brought by a private resident in the Wethersfield area and West Lindsey District Council in relation to the Home Office plans for the RAF Scampton site. At that time, the High Court was satisfied that the Council had an arguable case and that there were key issues that needed to be fully considered through the judicial review. The final hearing for all three judicial reviews took place over 2 days on Tuesday the 31st of October and Wednesday the 1st of November. The High Court delivered its judgment last week on the 6th of December, and we are disappointed to see that Mrs Justice Thornton has determined that the Home Office has acted lawfully when making the decision to use the site for this purpose, and she dismissed all three judicial reviews on all grounds advanced. Madam Chairman, since March we have worked tirelessly on behalf of our communities to legally challenge the Home Office's decision to use the Wethersfield site as a centre for asylum accommodation and to hold them to account. Following the judgment, we, together with the other two parties, have sought permission from the High Court to appeal the decision, and this has now been granted. As a result, we will now reflect on the detail contained within the judgment and consider the Council's position. Madam Chairman, there is a report going to Cabinet on the 18th of December which considers how the Council will manage the funding it has received from the Home Office in respect of this site. Any management of the fund will need to ensure that the funding is allocated in accordance with the funding instructions provided by the Home Office. It is our proposal that there will be a number of schemes which will include a community fund. Applicants will be able to bid for grants from the fund. Officers are considering what criteria will be set for the community fund to ensure that it complies with the Home Office funding instructions. This work is happening alongside the development of other schemes, and we hope to be able to provide a further update following the Cabinet meeting later this month. Having lost the judicial review, the Council will be required to pay the costs incurred in the proceedings by the Home Office and the Secretary of State for Defence. At the moment, these costs are unknown. However, the costs of all legal proceedings to date are currently in the region of £234,000. The Council is not able to use the grant funding it has received from the Home Office to recover these costs, and this is therefore a cost that has to be met by the Council taxpayers across the whole of the Braintree district. In the meantime, officers are continuing to meet with the Home Office and the County Council, Health, Police and Fire Services as part of the multi-agency forum to raise questions and concerns about the asylum accommodation, to ensure that there is minimal impact on residents that live nearby and on local services, whilst supporting asylum seekers coming to our district. Madam Chairman, we will continue to keep our residents and members updated, and will continue to update the Wethersfield page on the Council's website and on other communication channels where appropriate. I'd be happy to take any questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members have any questions they wish to ask Councillor Butland in relation to the information they've just received? If so, please raise your hand. Councillor Jeffries. Thank you. Councillor Jeffries, would you like to ask a question, please?
I can just about stand. Thank you for your update, and I'm sure there are many questions that we have to ask. When you said that the High Court gave the Council permission to proceed with the judicial review, that they thought there was an arguable case and key issues that needed to be considered. Can you say what those were? And also, obviously, the costs are high. The amount that you quoted, which obviously that's not the final amount, the 34k. Is that split between the three objectors, or is that our share? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. On the second question, that is our share, not split between the three. The main issue that was to be argued was the government's or the Home Office's reliance on Class Q, and that this was a national emergency. The views of the three parties, ourselves and the other two, were that it was not a national emergency. It was something which had developed. So that was the main point that was at debate during the course of the judicial review. I think that's answered, hopefully, the 2 points you raised.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Alt, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask the leader about the. Can you hear me, Graham? Sorry. About the policing. Whilst you've done your very best with the judicial review, we still have a serious amount of incidents going on up at the base, and I have an email from the Chief of Police for Essex, who states that we should have 3 police officers, and we've currently got 2 part-time police officers. So I'm just wondering if you can help us sort of get this into play as quickly as possible. We've had a number of incidents in the last couple of weeks where asylum seekers have made themselves present at the front doors of people's houses at 4 o'clock in the morning, knocking the windows and asking for food. I've had the police around my house actually and had a conversation about this, and he actually said that he was going to come and speak to the leader and see if we can get this sorted out. But to date, I've heard no more.
Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Alt. I did make reference in my statement to the multi-agency forum, which is ourselves, the County Council, the police, fire service, and come together on a regular basis. The point that through you, Madam Chairman, Councillor Alt raises is an operational issue. I know that there are officers in the room who are on that multi-agency forum. I'm not. It is operational and doing, and I'm sure they will have picked that point up and will be part of that discussion. But it is handy if you are able, as you've done, to pass the information, because the multi-agency forum is where all the agencies work together, together with, meet with the Home Office as well, to discuss operational issues on the site.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Staines, you have a question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, and obviously on behalf of the community, like to better understand the reflection and review process, the goals and the timescale for the recently announced appeal to the judicial review decision. Obviously that relates to the use of Wethersfield by the Home Office for asylum accommodation, and I guess the appropriate transfer of observations relating to the unsuitability of Wethersfield for 2 mega prisons as and when the Home Office submits a planning application for this. So just to reiterate, my question was, we'd like to better understand the reflection and review process, the goals and the timescales for the recently announced appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Staines. We had a relatively short time, the 3 parties, to lodge an appeal, if we so wish, which we have done. But it won't happen tomorrow, through you, Madam Chairman. That is likely to be at some stage in the future. We have a lot of work to do to digest the 43 pages of the judgment of Mr. Justice Lawton. We will need to weigh up and there'll be some fairly difficult questions in terms of, if we take this forward, what are the additional costs that will fall on every taxpayer in the district, whether you represent Wethersfield or whether you represent Whittam Central or Bocking South. And that will not be an easy decision to take. We will also need to remember that the government have said that they intend to put down an SDO, a Special Development Order, which of course may well have gone through at that stage. And we also would have to think in terms of, if it goes to the Supreme Court, not only just costs, but how long would it be before we got a decision? And I am advised that could be into June or July of next year. So those are the reflections, if I've got the question right, those are the things that we will have to reflect upon over the next few weeks before we decide how we move forward from where we are. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do I have any other questions at all? No? Thank you. We will now proceed to agenda item 8, motion by Councillor Joe Beavis, development of a community delivery plan for 2024 to 2028. Members, this item is set out on page 6 of the agenda. And as Councillor Beavis and Councillor Abbott, who's not here this evening, unfortunately, so it would be, so Councillor Beavis is proposing and Councillor Thorogood is seconding the motion. They're both present this evening and this item may proceed. Before I invite Councillor Beavis to introduce and formally state her motion, I can confirm that there's been an amendment to this motion. An addendum report setting out the amendment has been circulated to all members. I can confirm that the amendment has been accepted by Councillor Beavis and Councillor Thorogood accordingly, and we will not be debating the amendment separately, and the amendment will therefore form the substantive motion before Council this evening. I now invite Councillor Beavis to formally state and move the motion as amended. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the substantive motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Abbott, Councillor Thorogood, do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, Chairman, I second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Members, I will open the debate on the motion as amended. Please can I remind members that they may only speak once and speeches should be confined to the matter under discussion and should last no longer than 5 minutes. I will exercise my discretion to allow longer speeches if the point is particularly complex or detailed. Councillor Beavis, would you like to introduce your motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members. The purpose of the motion tonight is for Braintree District Council to further develop its own community relationship by establishing an outward-facing community delivery plan that our residents can understand and relate to. This plan would embrace the actions from the Corporate Plan 24 to 28 and the MTFS 24 to 28. In addition, it could link with the local plan, neighbourhood plans, community grant scheme, Live Well, community safety, the local economy, transport and the environment. We would not be alone in this approach. Following Torbay Council's own community conference, the Council's mission is to start a new conversation with its residents, communities and partners. At a recent national conference, Torbay Council presented its community and corporate plan, 23 to 33, so a 10-year plan. This is their overarching plan, linking the Council's corporate priorities with a new focus on residents, communities and partnerships. The leader and the Chief Executive of Essex County Council were present at the national conference and they fully supported the approach being taken by Torbay Council and hopefully in the future by others, including Braintree District Council. I so move the motion for debate. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please raise your hands. Councillor Holland, thank you. I believe we've got everybody. So, I'd like to invite Councillor Butland, please, to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't be too long. Can I just congratulate Councillor Mrs Beavis on moving our motion so well? Because, of course, it is our motion and not the motion that was originally put down by the Independent and Green Group, which I have to say I thought was simplistic in the extreme, made no account of what would need to be considered, and had no relevance whatsoever to the costs that might be incurred both financially and in the use of staff to do it. So I'm delighted that the amendment has been accepted, because I think it has turned what would have been a fairly useless motion into something which this council can now move forward on. And they are important issues about will there be added value of doing it and what will be the cost, given the financial circumstances that face all authorities. How will it link in with all the other plans that we have? If it's genuinely community, how are we going to involve the community in it? Because there was no mention of that in the original motion. How are we going to involve other agencies, health, police, as we say in the motion there, all of whom have a part to contribute? And finally, how does one define fairly? I think there are some in this chamber who think that some members think fairly is more money to certain geographical areas of the district as opposed to others. I am sure there may be some members who will want to draw attention to deprivation and where deprivation is greatest, which actually isn't in the same places as some other members might feel. So there is a huge amount of thought to be given, and I'm delighted that this motion will now give us the time to do it, and why we have suggested that it be dealt with an all-party group to determine how these key questions should be answered. Because I'm afraid, Madam Chairman, the original motion absolutely took no account of these key areas. But that, I'm afraid, is the approach that we tend to get from the Independent and Green Group, which is a simplistic approach to life. And life is not simple.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Walsh, would you like to ask a question?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had been looking forward to a constructive debate, but the remarks that I just follow, I think, betray intellectual bankruptcy, typical negativity, and frankly, inconsistency. You talk about all party, you then just go on to denigrate, the main opposition group. But I will speak constructively. I note that figures for take-up and opportunities across our district, of course, vary in many ways, in addition to the ones that Councillor Butland mentioned. There could be educational, employment achievement, life expectancy, income, savings, job security, and indices of well-being, e.g. the rate of physical and mental well-being. Notice I've said nothing about deprivation. I do have a number of points that arise from this. Briefly, do we actually have enough, and I'm trying to be positive, do we have enough core and up-to-date data to measure such? Secondly, should we not as a council, and definitely on a cross-party basis, seek to agree a set of key indicators that we could agree on, which focus on vital criteria and where the data is effectively available? Thirdly, the Independent and Green Group do submit that financial return and husbandry of public assets are certainly of importance, but so surely is greater equality of access to opportunity and also community well-being and cohesion. Lastly, and I'm deliberately exaggerating here, the concept of knowing the cost of everything and value of nothing is not, I'm alleging, what the Council is saying. But I would suggest that we have an openness of spirit and a constructive approach here so that we can move from a purely financial or corporate strategy to a community-driven strategy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Could I now invite Councillor Edwards, please, to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I might stray beyond the parameters of this slightly, just at the start, I'd like to wish both yourself and the whole Council Chamber a very Merry Christmas, coming up in a few weeks. I should note as well that the Labour group tonight has put us to shame on their festive clothing. They look fantastic. So I really need to do better on that next year. If I could echo Councillor Butland's words, I think that in defining fairness with relation to this motion, I hope the working group particularly looks at the multiple indices of deprivation score. Bocking South, my ward, is the most deprived ward in this district. A simple rural, urban, geographic analysis would not show that up. I think it's something absolutely worth looking at if we're creating a community delivery plan. I'd like to close by just saying that this is a council delivering £1 million of cost of living support and £589,000 in rural prosperity funding over 2 years. It's already delivering for communities across this district. I don't really see why we need a community delivery plan.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Could I invite Councillor Holland, please, to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On reading the original motion, my immediate thought was that this is a proposal. This proposal is a recipe for increasing administrative costs, slowing the decision-making and administrative process down, and duplicate matters which should rightly form part of the existing corporate strategy development process. Perhaps the most worrying aspect of the motion was that it is unfunded and contains no suggestion of an assessment of the cost-benefit of the proposal. The motion would, in my view, slow down and reduce delivery of much-needed development and bring an opportunity cost that we can do without. It would also likely lead to increased costs at a time of significant fiscal gap in our budget, and thus must surely bring the likelihood of reducing the funds available to support important discretionary services that benefit all of our residents. However, I welcome the amendment because whilst it does not take a stance on the above major concerns, it does at least put in place a mechanism by which the proposal can be assessed on all of these points. It's utterly essential that we do not hamper output of development and services by introducing yet more bureaucracy into the process, and I trust that the Cabinet will fully examine the points I raise before reaching a decision. On this basis, I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Could I invite Councillor Hooks, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I speak in support of the now substantive motion that is proposed by Councillor Joe Bevis. To have a community plan linking other corporate and financial strategies is an important step for the Council to take. All our communities, whether rural or town, are equally important and are very diverse, and it's of utmost importance that we converse and listen to all of them. It's also important that our plans are understandable to all within our district. Let's continue to be innovative and ambitious. Let's continue to listen to our communities in even more detail. Together, we can create a better Braintree district.
Thank you, Councillor Hooks. Could I invite Councillor Ball, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to speak in support of the substantive motion as amended, and I refer particularly to issues listed as 1, 3 and 5 in that motion. For one, the likely level of officer and financial resources needed for preparation and execution of such a plan is crucial. In present times, our staff already work in difficult circumstances. As just one example, in part of our ops department, some people start work at 6 o'clock in the morning, working against the clock to keep our fleet of waste collection vehicles on the road, against a background of rising prices and difficulty in obtaining parts. Now, that is absolutely vital in delivering the excellent waste collection services that we do. We cannot squeeze the budget or make working lives more difficult of this or any other department to finance a new layer of governance. And 3, it must be recognised that communities are built from bottom up. I'm delighted to hear that from the independent speakers. and not top-down. Local communities should be integrally involved, not only in shaping any new plan, but also monitoring its progress and benefit. And, as has been said, fairly should be determined in a rational and meaningful way, working from the index of multiple deprivation, the IMD, areas, but then considering the wider needs of the poorest and most disadvantaged in those areas in an imaginative way. With these thoughts in mind, I shall be voting for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Could I invite Councillor Staines, please?
Thank you, Chair. I was really interested to look at the Torbay example. I haven't been to Torbay before, so I hopped onto their website and had a look. What is Joe talking about? Why is it better than what we do at Braintree? And I found a few things that were really quite interesting and I wanted to share. Whether you've had the opportunity or not, I don't know. But one of the things they had, because they've clearly faced some criticism from their electorate that politics in Torbay was preventing delivery to the community needs and fairness, and it was putting people off engagement. And rather than carry on fighting each other, they decided to do something together and take a step forward together, which is a brave thing to do, and they tackled it head on. And one of the initiatives that I think does talk to specifically the point that we've raised about communicating and linking many of the activities which are in our local plan, corporate plans, a range of activities, is a periscope system, which is effectively a map, an interactive map, with lots of layers. And you can click on it and find out where tourism activity is being undertaken, where activity is happening about shopping improvements. Deprivation areas are specifically mentioned and targeted. Strategic business space. I guess Councillor Grants could also go on here. It was a very engaging way for the public to see. I also think, and I'm going to suggest that Councillor Button has a look as well. The website which Torbay has is very, very simple. For example, to get to a planning application, I think it's 2 clicks versus our 28 clicks, or whatever it happens to be. So I think we can compare efficiency as well, not only of our own time, but obviously of the people that engage with our services. And just as a final point, I think Braintree could do it better, but I think Braintree could do it better together. So just a little KPI example, we typically get about 200 views on our YouTube channel for each of these meetings. And I know that many of those views are actually officers going back in to check what we've said, which is great. They're managing about 600 to 650. Now, some of their stuff's a bit spicier than ours, but it may not be that in the future. So perhaps some sensible examples and some sensible KPIs that we can all share would help us push some of these things through and demonstrate to the electorate that we are able to work together, we are able to work cross-party, and we are able to deliver a fantastic opportunity across the whole district fairly for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Could I invite Councillor Heath, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I would like to welcome both the motion and the amendment, because without the motion we wouldn't have the amendment. I think the 5 bullet points we have here to start going forward are ideal and give us a chance as a full council and as a whole council to do, as Councillor Staines has just said, work together and try and focus and find a plan to take us all forward and our residents with us, and look forward to hopefully being an active part of that forum. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. I believe Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak on this item?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at the original motion, there was a lovely sentence in there saying the new plan will facilitate the delivery of specific local projects. I mean, the assertion is that Braintree District Council doesn't actually deliver anything, and that's clearly not correct. You know, even in Whitton, we've got the Newland Street improvements coming along. We've got 2 new 3G artificial football pitches coming along, a litany of projects being delivered by the administration. I think on that point as well is that Councillor Walsh actually made a point at the last full council that Whitton shouldn't get anything. He criticised the Newland Street, a shameful attack on the Witham Town improvements. And you have to look at the intent behind the motion, because the Independent and Green Group don't represent a single urban ward in the district. So I concur fully with Councillor Butland. And I actually referred to the point that Councillor Finken made, is how do you define fairness? And I think that's something we should work through as an administration, because Councillor Hooks actually said in her speech the word equal, and it reminds me of George Orwell said, everyone's equal, but some people are more equal than others. So let's make sure it's fair and we deliver a lot more for the district. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to speak in this debate, but I think it's been a very useful one. And once perhaps we get out to the old sort of spikiness of combative discussion over there, and actually sort of channel down to the real points, I think it's been extremely useful. And again, this definition of fairness, quite rightly mentioned by several colleagues, picking one community and pitching it against another isn't fair, isn't equitable, as we've said before, leads to particularly poor public service. I think colleagues opposite are right to mention the approach by Torbay. It's very interesting. Torbay does benefit, though, from being a unitary council, so it has all the key functions of local government under its own purview. And whilst our current system of local government provides opportunities and some strengths in terms of rigidity and flexibility, being over-rigid and having a lack of flexibility, that is sometimes to our detriment. But that doesn't obviously mean we can't explore these things fully. And I think the Conservative amendment, which we're all, I think, very pleased and that colleagues opposite accepted, does pave a direction of travel in which we can move some of these things forward constructively. So, Chairman, I think a very, very useful and very worthwhile debate to end this calendar year. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Bowles?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I wholly support the motion before us tonight and agree exactly with what Councillor Cunningham just said. I just wanted to make a point as the Cabinet Member responsible for the website and the Cabinet Member responsible for member development. It takes 2 clicks to get to our planning portal for a planning application. So if Councillor Staines is struggling with that, maybe I can arrange for some training for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Do I have any other members who wish to speak on this matter? No. Thank you very much. Councillor Thorogood, you've not spoken of the debate. I'd like to invite you to speak, please.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I will be brief. There is a perception in the community that a lot of investment doesn't go to the rural areas, despite what was said. That is the perception, rightly or wrongly. Take Section 106 monies, for instance. It doesn't seem that they go back to the communities where some of the housing is being built. It tends to be invested in Braintree or Witham or Helsted. And some of the sports facilities, it's great that Witham's getting a new all-weather pitch, but in areas like Kelvedon, Fear and Coggeshall, Wells Carry, there isn't anything like that at all. And youngsters have to travel to Tiptree or Witham or Colchester to use those sort of facilities. So I do think that in creating a community plan, this will enable the council to communicate and engage with communities and residents, and to make sure that they feel informed about local issues and give them the opportunity to get more involved with local decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thorogood. Right. As the proposer of the motion, as amended, Councillor Beavis, you may reply to the speeches. Please can I remind you, you should confine your reply to previous speakers and you should not introduce any new matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and there's not much more to add. I think it has been a really helpful debate, and from my point of view as bringing the motion forward, it very much came from looking at the engagement piece we did around the Council's corporate strategy and a better way of bringing those items out into our community and have a kind of a simpler public-facing document. So it's not particularly meant to be that bureaucratic, but that said, I was really quite pleased when I saw the amendments from the Conservative group because it seemed to me as the proposer of the motion, that it just seemed to be constructive and one that I thought could actually work forward. But what I will just briefly say is this. I remember as a member, and I would encourage all members to do this, when I went to a local government conference, I was listening to a showcase from Birmingham Council, and actually it was that showcase that brought forward Live Well, and look what we've done with that. And I just thought that when they put Torbay at that national conference, they did it for a reason, because they were showcasing best practice. And I think why reinvent the wheel? We've all got so much to learn from it. So I would encourage all members over the Christmas break, actually, Madam Chairman, to do a little bit of reading about Torbay. Maybe that will set us up for the new group, if that's the way that we tend to move forward. So nothing further to add. Thank you for the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Members, the motion as amended has been moved and seconded. I will put the motion as amended to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Okay. All those against, please indicate. Any abstentions? Councillor Corish, thank you. Sorry. The motion as amended has been approved. Thank you, members. As indicated at the start of this meeting, we will now deal with the agenda item 18, questions to the Leader and the Cabinet. Before commencing this item, please can I remind you that each member may only ask one question of the Leader and the Cabinet on matters which relate to the functions of the Leader and the Cabinet, the powers and duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the district which have taken place since the last meeting of full Council held on the 4th of September 2023. Questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, and supplementary questions are not permitted. Please can I remind members that they may not make statements before asking their questions. I will allow some explanation if it is necessary, but I will contain any longer leading statements. We have 30 minutes for this item, which will commence with the first question. Questions will commence with Councillor Beavis as Leader of the Opposition, and the order of remaining questions will be at my discretion. Please can all members wishing to ask a question this evening to now indicate, so that I, with the assistance of governance, may make a list. Please keep your hand raised until acknowledged. We've got everyone on this side. I think I've got everyone now. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. Councillor Beavis, do you have a question this evening? If so, you may proceed.
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. We will commence with Councillor Thorogood, please.
Thank you, Chair. At the recent Corporate Policy Development Committee meeting, chaired by Councillor Courtauld, it came out that when we were looking at the waste strategy, I think this is for Councillor Cunningham, that some of the recycling lorries that are going to Great Blakenham, some of them have been rejected because one or two or some amount of the sacks have been contaminated. It's got two parts of the question. If that happens, does that then mean the amount of waste we're reducing in percentage terms is reduced, and is there any way of finding that out? And is there a way of educating people better so that we don't get so many contaminated recycling sacks. Thank you.
I thank Councillor Thorogood for his question. In relation to the first part of the question, I would have to get a precise figure. But I think the key point underlying everything to do with waste, the emerging Essex waste strategy, and indeed our policy on side waste that is coming to the next Cabinet meeting, is the overwhelming desire to reduce the amount of waste collected by this authority. This authority is collecting too much waste compared to other boroughs, cities and districts in the county, particularly when you compare heavily densely populated areas such as Colchester. So he's absolutely right to make the points about further education, helping our residents who are always have been very responsive to this, making that great switch from black bins to seeing what more they can recycle. And I hope he'll find that as we go through the work with partners on the Essex Waste Strategy, but also our own policy implementation regarding side waste, situations which he described are minimised going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I invite Councillor Toby Williams, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As Councillor Taylor alluded to earlier on, this council has some really exciting plans when it comes to Witham, not least a brand new state-of-the-art community centre. Can I ask the Cabinet member responsible to provide a progress update on this project? I did note that in the Council's performance management report that it did point out there are some issues surrounding the transfer of the freehold. Again, can the Cabinet member please outline exactly what these issues are and what impact those issues will have on the delivery of the project?
Thank you. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Williams. Yeah, I'll be proud to give an update around the Witham Community Centre at Mortins Lane. The planning application has now been submitted after very positive discussions at pre-app stage with our planning team, and we look forward to the planning application coming to planning committee early in the new year. In January 2024, obviously next month, we will be going out to tender in regards to the construction of the building. So that will be happening in January. And then I look forward to bringing a couple of decisions to Cabinet early in the new year as well in regards to the operation of the centre going forward. But as Councillor Williams alluded to, it is going to be a very important asset for Witham. It's very, I'm sure the residents of Witham will welcome it, and I'm sure that it will be welcomed by the residents of the whole of the Braintree district. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Could I invite Councillor Finch, please?
I believe my question is for Councillor Tom Carnahan. It's regarding the green bins. Now the early bird offer is finished, are we able to have a further look into a monthly subscription service to help those of vulnerable and low income families with a hope for a higher uptake in the future?
Yeah. Can I thank Councillor Finch for her question? And obviously I'm delighted actually to report that as of today, 29,220, 43% take-up of households across the Braintree district have subscribed to our new all-year garden waste subscription service, generating to the benefit of this authority over £853,000. And there are more households still signing up to the service. In direct response to her actual question, I would say obviously very keen to look at all possible ways in which we can help residents subscribe to this service. I can't give a definite commitment today, but I'm very happy to take that away and look into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I invite Councillor Edwards, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members with sharp memories will remember at the last meeting of this council, I asked the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Inward Investment for an update on this year's Christmas light switch on. I'd now like to ask him for a further update on that switch on, as well as the plans that he has for the event in future years. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I remember that evening very well because we were being accused of cancelling Christmas. I can joyfully tell you that Christmas wasn't cancelled, as the Madam Chairman will cheerfully attest to, because she attended the joint light switch on. The Christmas markets, over 50 stalls set up with street food, local produce, Christmas gift decorations, coordinated with George Yard with their Christmas light switch on, and the landlord of the Boar's Head pub putting on a stage music event. With thanks to George Yard for sharing some fruitful data, I'm thrilled to say, excuse me, almost 21,000 people came to the High Street on the 25th of November. To put that into context, that was 2,000 more than in 2022. So apologies, Martin and Sue, for not having to come here this year. We managed to attract more people without having to have famous faces coming to do the lights switch on. It just goes to show that when our traders come together with our support, we really are a good town. And that as difficult as it may be with the cost of living challenge, it justifies the decision not to invest as much money as we did in 2022 and 2023. And it's my aim to continue that into 2024. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Could I invite Councillor Jeffries, please?
Thank you. The Bridgeway Mission in Colchester have been welcoming some of the men from Wethersfield to their hub, where they join in activities and provided with refreshments. There have been concerns that some of the men don't appear to have any winter clothing and have actually been turning up in T-shirts. Are there any local organisations? I understand there are restrictions about who are able to help, but whether they locally can be provided with some suitable winter clothing. Obviously, we have had a very cold snap. It's got a bit milder at the moment, but we don't know quite what's on its way. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That very point is one which I've had discussions this week with Sherry Root, who's our lead. You're quite right. Some of the clothing provision I don't think is suitable for the winter. We need to look at how that can be done, and we are actively working on it, and I will ensure that we keep you up to date, all members up to date, with what goes on in that situation. But you raise a genuine issue.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Could I invite Councillor Taylor, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Councillor Tom Cunningham. Unfortunately, there's been an upsurge in graffiti in parts of Whitton. Will Councillor Cunningham tell me whether the council will be looking to improve the service or enhance the service to remove this graffiti and tackle the graffiti hotspots, but also what powers the council can leverage to enforce private landowners to clean up graffiti and on other publicly owned land, for example, railway bridges and perhaps other local government organisations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. In response to the second part of his question, unfortunately, we are limited in terms of powers of enforcement on graffiti that takes place on assets that aren't necessarily Braintree District or in the responsibility of other agencies. In response to the first part of his question, I believe actually Braintree District Council has a very rapid responding response to graffiti. Our operations team on report aim to get to particularly offensive and inappropriate graffiti within 24 hours for removal. If he has some specific examples relating to his ward, if he is very happy to pass them on to me, I'll make sure the operations team get them and they will be given swift attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I invite Councillor Alt, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the leader. I'm sure everyone's aware that Finchinfield Bridge has been a topic of conversation for some time now, and Essex Highways spent a fairly substantial sum of money in the last month and a half rebuilding the bridge after it was damaged, blocked the road off for 4 days, disrupting traffic through the village. 2 days after the bridge was completed, it was smashed into again and the 6-foot section was knocked off the bridge. So it's a question to Councillor Butland. He has a meeting, I understand, on the 18th of January, the local highways panel, and I'm asking for his support to get an emergency traffic regulation order on that bridge for a weight restriction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alt, for the question. You will be aware, of course, that Finchinfield Bridge is a county council matter. and it will be for the County Council to determine how that's done. I'll happily take it up with the Cabinet Member for Highways as soon as I'm able to next meet with him. But I have to say, the sort of orders that are being asked do not appear within 5 minutes. My experience is that they can take a considerable amount of time to be brought in, time all the legal stuff is done. But I will raise the matter with the Cabinet Member at the County Council for Highways.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Parker, could I invite you to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for Councillor Mary Cunningham. I was delighted to learn that the Police and Fire and Crime Commissioner has secured £300,000 from the government for a Safer Streets programme in Halstead. Is the Cabinet Member able to provide us with any more information on the implementation of the scheme? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Yes, the funding was awarded at the end of, I believe it was the end of October. A programme is being worked on at the moment, and I believe it will be starting to be rolled out early in the new year. It's a similar amount to the funding that was awarded for Whittam, and the actual programme will be similar to the programme for Whittam, and I can give you some idea of a few of the actual things that are being addressed, because Halstead had one of the issues has been antisocial behaviour, so there will be increased CCTV, extra money put aside for obviously monitoring the CCTV, educational programmes to encourage youngsters to get involved in education, some leisure to encourage youngsters to get off the streets and do something useful. There will be a programme for aimed at women and girls so that they feel safer. That was an issue that was raised. And there's a whole host of other things which obviously once the programme starts will be rolled out to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I invite Councillor Walsh, please?
Thank you, Chair, and I'm very pleased to notice the positive direction the tone of the debate is going. I don't think anybody on this side of the House had gone off-piste. My question is to Councillor Cunningham about the green pins. Tom Cunningham, thank you. And it's in the tone, please, if I could explain, of a positive and friendly challenge. And these aspects may well have been covered, but you've updated us usefully on the very strong take-up. Have any of the following consequences of this scheme, which has been looked at in detail before it was proposed and implemented, notwithstanding scrutiny, has there been any indication or study of or evidence of additional fly tipping? Have we had any anticipated, or did we consider whether there might be any additional burning of garden waste? Just two more. Is there any concern, or has there been any sign of possible misuse? For example, placing some garden waste in the grey bins. And lastly, and this is something
Councillor
that I think...
Walsh, one question, please.
Which question
are you asking?
Sorry.
It's not permitted in parts.
I wasn't trying a trick. I genuinely thought it could be more than one item as a holistic question.
Please make your question concise.
Right.
Thank you.
Can I finish the last bit?
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Finish the last bit.
Why is it assumed that neighbours will automatically help with the assisted situation? Thank you very much.
Yes, well, obviously, whilst we've launched the new all-year-round garden waste subscription scheme, the implementation hasn't actually started yet. That will start in the early part of next year. But he repeats some concerns that were raised when the paper was brought to Cabinet and also through the various call-in process. I mean, I'm afraid I don't subscribe to this theory that suddenly, with an additional charge incurred by residents, and residents, as I say, have responded very positively, constructively and pragmatically to the implementation of the new service, that suddenly there's going to be this huge surge in fly tipping. I think residents of this Braintree district behave far more responsibly than that. But he asks some good questions, which will obviously need to be answered once the service is rolled out. So I would envisage a situation probably within the first 6 or maybe 9 months, certainly before the end of the calendar year, where we would bring a review paper to Cabinet and answer some of those questions that have been raised. I think that would be the sensible way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Courtauld, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is for Councillor Mary Cunningham. As the Cabinet Member for Stronger Communities, would the Cabinet Member be able to give an update on how the money Braintree District Council gave to the food bank is helping the rural communities, please?
Thank you, Councillor Courtauld. Yes, I think we had a question in perhaps the last full council meeting where we were able to say that the 90,000 that was given to the food bank over 2 years allowed them to increase their delivery capability. They were able to lease an extra vehicle, and that has resulted in over, I think it's 300 and something deliveries into a lot of the rural areas. Some are in the towns as well, to people who can't access because of disabilities, but it has been a huge success and ongoing in deliveries to rural villages, and it has also allowed the extra opening of a food bank in Headingham, which is being fed now by the Braintree warehouse too. So it's been a very positive move. And not only are the volunteers delivering food parcels, they are actually bringing back issues that they are seeing when they're out there in other areas where there's perhaps 1 or 2 social issues. They are able to inform the various partner organisations where help is needed. So all in all, it's been a very, very positive move. And actually, while we're talking about food bank, just a reminder, if I may, Madam Chairman, members' evening on Wednesday night, the cost of living crisis, the manager of Braintree Food Bank will be attending. So if anybody's got any further questions, Wednesday night's the night to ask. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I invite Councillor Mason, please?
Can you hear me all right? Okay, thank you. I want to ask a question. I know it doesn't belong to this particular forum because I believe it belongs to the Essex County Council, but myself and my ward colleagues have had several recent issues and complaints from people who have blue badges and have difficulties parking in Braintree, and particularly I understand on market days that the usual spaces are not available. Now, I understand that this has actually reached the Braintree and Witham Times. I don't actually know the significance of that, but I feel that this is something that is affecting our members, and I would like it raised and thought about. And as a relatively new elected member, I'd like you all to advise me of how this can be taken forward. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'll answer this, although, of course, as Councillor Mason points out, it's not our responsibility, my responsibility as such. Actually, you're in an ideal position because you may wish to take this issue up with your local county councillor, who I believe is also the cabinet member for highways at the county council. I mean, unfortunately, we have to have this because we can't have, Councillor Cunningham responding here on county council matters. But I think if you pass that message, he's heard the message, and I think I can safely say he'll be in touch with you on that particular issue. Because I know not just yourselves, but I have heard it in other directions as well, through you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butler. Yes, it is indeed difficult when we have different hats that we wear. Final speaker, I believe, Councillor Ramage. Would you like to speak on this matter?
Thank you very much, Chair.
I think this relates to Councillor Tom Cumlin, this particular question. Just to say, recently I walked through our offices and found half of the desks empty. My concern is, are we providing a service to the community? What costs are involved by the people working from home, etc.? And also, is there any sort of plan to make the staff come back to the offices? Because I believe this is sort of a post-COVID situation. Or what is the current state of play as far as the council is concerned regarding the staff coming back to the offices? Thank you.
Yes, I thank Councillor Ramage for his question. It's part human resources, which sits with Councillor Bowers, but also I think there's a wider point here about organisational transformation, agile and flexible working. And yes, of course, during the pandemic, working patterns did change, working behaviours did change. And since the pandemic, organisations have continued to offer flexible working, hybrid working. I think the key to any future consideration, and we're going through a process of likely transformation, how we can improve our agile and flexible working, how we can use this physical structure of Causeway House better and more effectively, not just for the services that this authority delivers, but for the benefit of residents of the district, because it's, after all, it's their building. And I think you'll see in the first quarter of next year a paper coming to Cabinet on agile and flexible working and some of the other considerations which we have got expert input from external sources. What I would say that it be the members' priority to ensure that the organisation is staffed, resourced appropriately to deliver the needs of the authority in difficult times. That will be the overarching objective in which we approach these further conversations about transformation, where staff work, how they work, because after all, it's all about delivering services better in challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'd just like to make sure that I haven't excluded anybody. No? Thank you, members. That concludes this item this evening. Any question requiring a written response will be answered within 10 working days of the meeting and shared with all members. I will now resume the published order of business for this evening's meeting and move to agenda item 9, Cycling Strategy Year 2.
Sorry, Madam
Thank you, members.
I apologise.
Your apology is accepted. Thank you very much.
Salvation Army, Mr. Chair.
Members, this item is set out on pages 7 to 59 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Spray, Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructures, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I think that was a very nice introduction to my report, actually. Delighted to have a musical start. Thank you, Chairman. The recommendations are set out on page 7 of the agenda. There are 3. To note the progress made against the cycling strategy and implementation plan, to approve the draft implementation plan of 2023-24, and to delegate authority to Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure to approve future annual cycling reports. And I so move, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Spray has moved the recommendations as set out on page 7 of the agenda. Please can we have a seconder?
Move, Madam Chairman. Second.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchley. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I will now invite Councillor Spray to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. Members, I'm pleased to present this report detailing the progress of the cycling strategy. The strategy was first adopted in September 2021 to help promote both cycling and walking within the district. The Cycling Steering Group was established to develop the cycling strategy and continues now to monitor progress. That group is chaired by me, and I have to say there is always good input from the group members when we meet. There's a lot of enthusiasm to increase the number of people cycling and to ensure that it's a safer and more pleasant experience. Essex County Council are the District Council's partner in this, and they continue to be supportive. There are 4 appendices attached to this report, which I hope members will have had a chance to look at, so I'll just pick out some highlights. Appendix A is the monitoring report on the 2022-23 projects, and it's encouraging to see that all those projects are either completed, started and on track, or due to start in 2024-25. The Braintree Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, or LCWIP, as I'm going to refer to it from now on, has concluded its consultation, and the Witham LCWIP consultation is now underway. Essex County Council will be conducting a county-wide LCWIP, and this will cover towns and villages and connections in between. And actually, the Cycling Steering Group has requested that Halstead be included in that consultation. Appendix B shows performance indicators against 2022-23 projects. New cycling infrastructure is being installed using Essex County Council's Active Travel Fund in Braintree Town, and Section 106 money is being used both in Braintree and in Witham from various developments, and this will continue through the planning process. We have been asked to measure and provide the number of cyclists in Braintree. It's not actually that easy to do, Chairman, but the newly installed Vivacity camera counters do show cyclists using both the road and the cycle paths. There are 10 of these cameras installed now around Braintree Town, so this should give us a more accurate figure going forward. I do want to mention 2 slightly less positive points in the report, but also what steps are being taken to address those issues. Point 3.15 of this report says that bike thefts from train stations have increased from 8 to 16. Now, maybe a small number, but that's not a small number if it's your bike that's been nicked. Rail travel has increased from 2021, when COVID meant a much lower number of rail users. So we think it's likely that more rail users using bikes to travel to the stations, which is a much more sustainable way of getting there, we think that has resulted in more thefts. So officers are working with Greater Anglia and the Community Rail Partnership to identify funding opportunities to increase security and storage facilities at railway stations. I will just say that overall cycle thefts in the district have decreased from 65 in 2022 to 55 in 2023, and the police do run regular bike safety sessions and give security advice to cyclists, which we hope helps. The second point is 3.16, which is around cycling accidents. These have increased from 18 in 2021 to 24 in 2022. The Council will continue to monitor these accident figures whilst also promoting cycling safety advice and reminding drivers about the highway code. And in addition, officers are working with the police to monitor if there are any particular hotspots for accidents, and these can then be highlighted to the local highways panel. Appendix C shows the communications campaign and related activity, and I do think this has been excellent. Certainly notices pop up quite frequently in my inbox, flagging up the activities. And things like Ride London, which came through the district, generated a lot of excitement and interest and helped promote cycling as an activity. And finally, Appendix D is the strategy implementation plan for 2023-24, and this sets out the long-term plan that will lead to a significant and sustained increase in cycling in our district. That is our definite hope. There are a lot of positives around encouraging cycling, including, but not exclusive to, improving health, reducing pollution, reducing traffic congestion, and increasing opportunities for those on lower incomes to give them other means of transport. There is a lot of very good and detailed information in that last appendix. And I just finally would like to thank our officer, Louise Flavel, for her hard work in putting together this report, and also for her continued support on the cycling strategy. Chairman, as I've mentioned and has been moved and seconded, there are the 3 recommendations.
happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Ritchie, would you like to... Oh, sorry, no, I think we're going to have questions first, aren't we? Sorry. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, indicate by raising your hand. Councillor Holland. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Staines. Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Holland, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I welcome the cycling strategy as reported here tonight and believe the benefits it seeks to deliver to be of immense importance across the entire district. As a rural ward member, I see the strategy as being more focused, though not exclusively, on the urban areas. In the rural areas, similar benefits could accrue if we were to support and promote traffic calming in the rural and protected lanes. Limiting speed and the implementation of quiet lanes would greatly help with this, because currently many rural lanes are deemed by residents to be too dangerous for cyclists, walkers and horse riders. And this is because of speeding motorised users and the constraints of the narrow carriageways. I hope, therefore, that as part of this right-minded initiative to encourage more recreational cycling and walking activity, that this council will advocate strongly for new and improved safety measures across the rural lanes through our beautiful countryside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Could I invite Councillor Walsh, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to strongly endorse the comments by my previous councillor and colleague across the floor. And I'd like to begin by saying briefly, and it's a couple of points, but I think they're all connected. I think this is a model of constructive work and achievement, and I'm a member, as I said, of the group that Peter Cohn spoke about earlier on. Could I just ask, and I think some of this is touched on in the report, but perhaps you could expand slightly, Councillor Spray, what would you say are the key challenges in taking forward the next phase of the strategy? Is there anything else that Braintree might do in addition to all that it is doing, which is appreciated, to support local initiatives? And I hesitated about asking this, but one of my colleagues gave me an example. We know that eventually something may happen with the A120. If the existing route is detrunked, is there any possibility whatsoever that we could look at within the strategy maybe a dedicated cycling route along there, as we have already done, as has already been done on parts of the A12? And lastly, and I think if Peter Cohn was here, he'd probably endorse this. In other words, I got it from him. Is there anything else we can do, and it alludes to the last point, that we can do to promote cycling between rural areas and our town centres, and especially within them? I'm a cyclist myself, and I'm often afraid to go down quiet rural lanes, which ought to be ideal territory. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Can I invite Councillor Staines, please?
I just want to say this is excellent. This is really great. Councillor Holland knits all my best lines. It's fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. Councillor Walsh, terrific. The working with the local communities, Mr. Cohn in particular, driving this through, it's fantastic. The linking the villages without having to go by car, through the use of quiet lanes, like the Holes Lane in our area, Mark. The encouragement for folks to pick up a bike and go through pump tracks, as Beth Shriver has shown that she can do on a global stage. This is fantastic for Braintree. This really does bring it home, and it's the rural areas that are bringing people, money and love to this place. And I just want to say that it's wonderful to be able to just talk about it for a second. So my question, sorry. Question two actually. One is about the Ride London funding. Our residents did undergo some disruption in order to facilitate that. I think they took it with good grace. Only had picnics outside. They did it before in the Tour de France in 2014. What can we do to distribute some of that money more fairly to those areas that were put under some strain during that time and as it goes forward? Because after all, that area does appear to be the magnet for this type of fantastic initiative. The other piece is how can we accelerate development or devolvement even, a delivery of more cycle lanes across the district so that local folks can own this and operate with their neighbours to deliver such a fantastic opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? No? I just have something myself I would like to raise. And I would just like to mention that in Europe, certain HGVs over a certain weight are not permitted to drive on the roads on Sundays. And I wonder whether or not that is something that has been discussed, whether in fact to lobby the government to propose a trial. Councillor Spray.
Councillor Ritchie wants to speak, I think.
Oh, sorry. Right. Sorry. We're now going to... Councillor Ritchie, you have seconded the recommendations reserving your right to speak and have not yet spoken in the debate. Please, can I invite you to speak now?
I'll get a message, I'll be really quick. The only thing I wanted to add is let's not lose sight of the fact that with the developments that we're approving through Planning Committee, there's a number of Section 106 involvement that can and does contribute towards the cycling strategy here in the district. Those of us on the Planning Committee will note that some of those large developments actually are giving some fairly large sums of money. In turn, that will help with our strategic partners who are Essex County Council in delivering the cycling strategy to further continue the work they're doing with us. As the next member of the cycling strategy working group, it's great to see the progress that this has made over the past year or so. Great that we had Peter Cohn here this evening, just giving us an update on their progress, and it's certainly something that we need to kind of dovetail and deliver hand in hand. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Spray, as the proposer of the recommendations, would you like to reply to the speeches before I put the recommendations to the vote? Please do not introduce any new matters.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for jumping the gun. Thanks very much, Councillors Holland, Walsh, Staines and yourself, Madam Chairman, for your contributions. I think I can probably round up my answers to all of you together, because there was a pretty much common theme running through them. Everyone makes very valid points about the rural connectivity, something that certainly the cycling steering group very much have on their minds. As I mentioned in my introduction, Essex County Council are intending to review rural cycleways throughout the county, but that will include our district, and it will hopefully include Halstead and the surrounding villages, sort of right up to the north, because I think we are aware that that's where a lot of the, there is a lack of connectivity in the more rural parts of the district. So we look forward to that review coming up, and certainly on the cycling steering group, it's something we will be pushing for. I think it was Councillor Holland says there are actually, there are other options apart from cycleways. There are quiet lanes. There have been a number of applications recently for quiet lanes which have been granted. It does take a little while because it comes through the local highways panel, but certainly they can and do happen. That's one option. Speed restrictions, weight restrictions, as you mentioned, Madam Chairman, are also another option. These things all help promote safer cycling. It was mentioned this evening, people's reluctance sometimes to use their bikes because they don't feel particularly safe going down some of our roads, and I can well appreciate that. So again, the sort of measures that we're talking about should help give people a bit more confidence about cycling. I think the A120 being detrunked, it has come up in places and in conversations. I think it's something we would certainly keep an eye on. It's not entirely, I have to say, within the gift of the District Council, but it's certainly something that we can promote if we feel that's an appropriate way to go. And finally, Councillor Walsh asked what the key challenges are. Well, it is certainly connectivity around
the villages. And we do hope that that is something that we can move forward on and improve. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Thank you, members. The recommendation set out on page 7 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. We'll now proceed to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. That's everyone. All those against? And any abstentions? No. That's unanimous. The recommendations are approved. Thank you, members. We'll now deal with the agenda item 10, Local Council Tax Support Scheme for 2024-25. Members, this item is set out on pages 60 to 169 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Bowers, Cabinet Member for Resources and Performance, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I introduced the report on the Local Council Tax Support Scheme for 2024-25. I formally move the recommendations on page 60 of tonight's report.
Thank you. Councillor Bowers has moved the recommendations as set out on page 60 of the agenda. Please could we have a seconder?
Formally seconded, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes.
Thank you. I will invite Councillor Bowers to speak on this matter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I hope members have had a chance to read the 109 pages of tonight's agenda relating to this item. The purpose of the report tonight is to approve a revised local council tax support scheme for providing council tax discounts for working age claimants with effect from the financial year 24-25 and the transitional protection arrangements for migration of existing claimants to the new scheme. The proposals in the report do not affect pension age claimants who are protected and continue to receive up to 100% of local council tax scheme support against their council tax liability under rules set by the Department of Work and Pensions. The current working age local council tax support scheme was introduced in April 2013 when it replaced the council tax benefit scheme administered on behalf of the DWP. The scheme adopted many aspects of the formal council tax benefit scheme, including the extensive means-tested application process and requirements for supporting evidence. Locally determined elements were also reflected, including a minimum level of contribution towards council tax, currently set at 24%. Since the local council tax support scheme was first introduced, a number of issues have developed, exacerbated through the introduction and continued rollout of universal credit, and which are detailed section 3 of the report. These issues impact heavily on claimants and are expected to worsen as DWP complete their managed migration of all existing legacy benefits, including housing benefit, to universal credit. The impact of these issues manifest in both the complexity of the scheme for claimants and the council, and in a disproportionate amount of council taxpayers in receipt of local council tax support that are in arrears and subject to recovery action. Reviewing the scheme also provides opportunity to reassess locally determined elements of the scheme, the changes to which are set out in section 4 of the report. The proposed scheme for 24-25 therefore focuses on the following 3 key objectives. 1, to increase the level of support provided to these households on the lowest incomes, including increasing the maximum level of discount available to 77%, which will mean that over 3,000 households will receive more support. 2, to replace the current means-tested scheme with a simplified banding scheme that will make the application process for claimants much easier and provide, in most cases, an immediate notification of entitlement. The new scheme will be less sensitive to what are often small changes in universal credit entitlement, change in universal credit entitlement, and therefore reduce the scheme that households fall into arrears through frequent changes to the council tax instalment plans. And 3, administration of the scheme will be easier on the council and more efficient and will help maintain council tax collection. With less staff time spent on administration, this will mean there will be more time available to provide support and assistance to claimants, including administrating extra financial support where there is genuine financial hardship. The application process will be online, but help and support will be made available to ensure everyone that needs to can complete an application
including using the current outreach and welfare support officers employed by the Council. Staff will continue to undertake compliance and anti-fraud checks. Whilst the majority of existing claimants will receive the same or more support, there will be some claimants with higher incomes or with capital savings above £10,000 that will see a reduction in their level of support. 60% of those receiving less support will be under £5 a week, and for this group, the average reduction per week is around £2. There will be a relatively small number of claimants that have nil entitlement to support. It is proposed to provide automatic transitional protection to most existing claimants with reductions in entitlement above £5 per week. Further support will be available on a case-by-case basis through the Exceptional Hardship Fund, with an additional £50,000 being proposed to be allocated from the Cost of Living Fund to increase the amount of EHF funding. Existing funding is £30,000. Claimants with saving over £10,000 will not receive transitional protection, but will still be eligible to apply for this. Where existing claimants are potentially receiving a lower level of support, they will also be encouraged to reapply under the new scheme if their circumstances may have changed from those used at migration, as this could result in more support becoming available. All new claimants will be assessed and provided support as awarded under the new scheme. A 6-week consultation was undertaken on outline proposals, which was widely publicised by the Council. A full analysis of responses is provided in Appendix B. The report assesses some of the specific comments raised through the consultation, including the cost of schemes to taxpayers. Based on financial modelling, the overall cost of the revised scheme, including the transitional protection and extra hardship funding made available, is broadly in line with the current provision made in the 23-24 council tax base calculations. An equalities impact assessment has been undertaken, and from this the proposed scheme incorporates extra protection for households with a person or persons that have a disability. The new scheme continues to provide some incentive to those in work through an income disregard and still allows up to £10,000 of savings to be held. There will be a requirement for one-off investment to make the necessary system changes and to provide the customer-facing online application assessment. This investment will be funded from reserves held for the scheme. Having implemented a banded scheme and made the change to the systems, this will provide a more flexible scheme that can be more easily adapted for future policy decisions around the support. The proposed move to a banded scheme is in line with the increasing trend amongst local authorities or adopting similar schemes for very much the same reasons outlined in the report. The Council is asked to approve the 3 recommendations. Recommendation 1, to approve the scheme for working age claimants as set out in Section 4, to approve the transitional protection arrangements for migration of existing claimants as set out in Section 5, and to agree the allocation of £50,000 from the Cost of Living Fund to provide extra funding to award on a case-by-case basis for existing claimants suffering exceptional hardship as a result of the introduction of the new local council tax supports working age scheme. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand. Please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. Councillor Staines, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Chair. We can only guess the stress that those 3,000 households claiming are under. We can only guess the benefit from gardening and homemaking and social inclusion that they might get from gardening. And while not part of the council tax, will green bin support be extended to validated claimants using some of the projected windfalls?
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And just a quick catch up on a couple of the points. I mean, I think it's really useful to use the Cost of Living Fund to offer some support in delivering this new banded scheme. I'm slightly concerned about the online application, particularly with the sort of elderly and the vulnerable, but hopefully one is sort of assured that there will be some support there. It would also be quite helpful to understand whether our partners such as the CAB, Community 360 and Easterlight getting copies of this report, so they'll also be able to provide some assistance. I think for me, really, page 62, 311, where it talks about the sort of the length of time that it's taken to process the applications, 14 days, and one would really hope that the new changes in the scheme will really bring that down, and we will have some updates and assurances on this moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Walsh. Sorry. No, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Heath. So sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I won't pretend to have understood the whole 100 pages of the report, but the bits that I do, the report in its whole, as it looks, must be welcomed because it's helping 77% more people than it did before, and with 3,000 plus people actually gaining, has got to be of a benefit. I do like the fact that it's not going to be means tested to make it simplified, because in other reports and issues that I've read, that by bringing in means tests actually takes so much money out of any scheme that it's of a detriment to it. And also the fact that in section 4.4 of the report, it says that people with disability allowances and personal support schemes and everything, have them taken away, because there is far too often where somebody is given a grant to help and assist a family member or a dependent, and then for every pound they get, the left hand takes away £1.50. Overall, I think this is very good, and I congratulate all those that worked on all the 100 pages. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Can I invite Councillor Jeffries, please?
My question's been stolen, really. But I was just going to ask, really, if we can be confident that all those people that should be getting it are getting it, and how we can kind of encourage that. Obviously, Councillor Beavis has mentioned Citizens Advice Bureau and so forth. So it's just that's the only question, really.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to applaud this report and for the fairness with which it is treating both council taxpayers as well as those in receipt of this money. I note that this change will save this council £120,000. That is welcome news in the context of a multi-million-pound budget gap over 4 years. I think Conservatives in government should be about making government more efficient, and that's what I believe this report seeks to do. It's an absolute win, and I'm glad that members on the other side are welcoming it as well. I would echo Councillor Jeffries' and others' concerns. How can we make sure that every single person who is eligible to receive this support is aware that they can receive this support? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Parker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd very much like to welcome this report too. I think a lot of work has gone into devising a scheme that's easier for claimants in particular. I was sort of rather appalled to read that the previous application was 28 pages, which is enough to put anyone off applying. But so this, I think, will be a huge improvement. I was particularly pleased to see that the child benefit is no longer going to be disregarded. Previously, it was only child benefit was only going to be disregarded for one child, so that's really helping families, and also the recognition that there are now a lot of in quotes, adult children, 18 plus, who are still living with their parents. And I'm pleased to see that is not also no longer going to be disregarded. So overall, I think it's a real big improvement, fairer, simpler, and I think will definitely benefit our residents. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I too applaud this scheme. I think it's going to have huge benefits to everyone in our community. In fact, this almost circles back to the amended motion that we had at the beginning of this council this evening, Madam Chairman. I'd fully expect to see, if approved this evening, this report being part of that debate that we have around any type of community delivery plan, because this is the nuts and bolts of what we do for our communities. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Richard. Do I have any further questions at all, or statements? No, thank you very much. Then I would like to ask Councillor Butland, as you've seconded the recommendations, reserving your right to speak, and you've not spoken in the debate. Please, can I invite you to speak now?
I don't wish to add anything, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Bowers, as the proposer of the recommendations, would you like to reply to the speeches before I put the recommendations to the vote? Please do not introduce any new matters.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for everyone who spoke on this item tonight. I think we're all in agreement that it is a positive move forward. Just in response to some of the comments that were made, Councillor Beavis' comment about a very good use of the the cost of living reserve, which I obviously completely agree with. In regards to the online scheme that we do have outreach, we do have support within the council, but we will make sure that is available to all those that need it. And it's one of the first questions I had in regards. This scheme is a really move forward, but obviously not everyone is online savvy and that kind of thing, and obviously there are vulnerable residents and that kind of thing, so we'll make sure that is picked up. I'm not sure in regards to the citizens' advice point, but I will take that on board and make sure that we're getting as much information out as possible, so everyone's aware of that to support those in need. And also, I totally agree with you in regards one of the shocking things when you look at the initial scheme about not just all the work, but the length of time it takes, and Councillor Parker referred to that as well, so I totally agree with that. Thank you, Councillor Heath, for your comments about that welcoming the scheme and it not being means tested, and the disability living allowance was another key factor that we was really pushing on, that we needed to make sure we didn't lose and that kind of thing, so I'm glad that has been picked up. Akin to the TAB point, another point, obviously Councillor Jefferson, Councillor Edwards, your points are taken on board in regards the communication is key to this, about how we get the widest communication out to, because obviously with the existing claimants, then they will be automatically migrated over, but then there's obviously some that might now be benefit from the scheme, that kind of thing. So the communication is key. Will feed into everything we do. I just at the end of this, before I take my seat, I just want to going back to I think it was Councillor Heath mentioning like the 109 pages and welcoming and giving credit to whoever worked on that, as well as Phil Miles, who's done a lot of work on this. I do have to pay huge credit to Julie Rigby, our Revenues and Benefits Manager, who's been here absolutely years, a legend in this authority, and she's forgotten more than I'll ever know, kind of thing, you know. So I need to pay credit to all the work she's done, and she's the main person responsible for this. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. And thank you, members. The recommendation set out on page 60 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please indicate. I believe that is unanimous. Thank you very much. So, members, it's approved. Yeah, the recommendations are approved. Thank you, members. We'll now deal with agenda item 11, the medium-term financial strategy for 2023-24 to 2026-27. Members, this item is set out on pages 170 to 172 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Bowers, Cabinet Member for Resources and Performance, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I again remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'll introduce this report to Council and formally move the recommendations as set out on page 170 of tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Bowers has moved the recommendations as set out on page 170 of the agenda. Please, could we have a seconder?
Formally seconded, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now invite Councillor Bowers to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'll just say just a few words on this, because this has come before Cabinet, and there are substantial amounts in here, but I think that we all understand the reasons why. Just to reiterate the points that were made in tonight's agenda in regards the first amount in regards to the pay ward, as was reported through the MTFS to Cabinet, our latest position identified an estimated overspend on staffing costs once the pay award due to be implemented in April 23 was agreed. The report also identified an overachievement of income from Treasury management due to the increases in interest rates and higher cash balances held for investment, which could fund the additional in-year staffing costs. And the Cabinet recommended that the budget environment of £600,000 be approved by full council, being brought here tonight. And also the other item in regards to the MTFS update also identified since the approval of the 23-24 budget, the council become involved in other legal changes in regards to the Home Office and regards to the use of the Wethersfield site. I won't say too much more on that because obviously Councillor Butland has given a full update of where we are in the position in regards to the finances as well. But this is just to make the money available that we need to do as part from a budgetary perspective. So basically the report is to receive and consider the following two recommendations. One, to agree a budget environment of 23-24 £600,000 between Treasury management income and staff pay budgets to reflect the higher than budgeted cost of the pay award now agreed and implemented with effect from April 23. The additional cost to be covered as a one-off environment for overachieved Treasury management income. The ongoing extra cost of the pay award has been reflected in the adjustments recognised in the MTFS and budget proposals for 24-25, and to agree a budget of up to £300,000 for legal costs incurred by the council on challenges against the Home Office in relation to their use of the Wethersfield site for the accommodation of asylum seekers. The budget will be funded from allocation from general fund balances. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, indicate by raising your hand. Please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. No one. As no one wishes to speak on this item, Councillor Butland, as you've seconded the recommendations, reserving your right to speak, please can I invite you to speak now?
I think we're on a winning line, so no comments, Madam Chairman.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, members. The recommendation set out on page 170 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please indicate. Again, I think that's unanimous. That is unanimous. The recommendations are approved. Thank you. We'll now deal with agenda item 12, Treasury Annual Report 2022-23. Members, this item is set out on pages 173 to 182 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Bowers, Cabinet Member for Resources and Performance, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Introducing the report, the Treasury Annual Report 22-23, and formally move the recommendation as set out on page 173 of tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Bowers has moved the recommendations as set out on page 173 of the agenda. Please could we have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Chairman, reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. I'll now invite Councillor Bowers to speak on this matter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. The report before us tonight constitutes the annual report on Treasury management activities for the 2022-23 financial year. The report was initially considered at the meeting of Governance and Audit Committee on the 24th of August 2023. The annual report details the external context for the year, confirms the level of resources held for investment and the investment activity undertaken across the year and the income that this has generated. The report also provides an overview of the Council's borrowing, including detail of the debt refinancing undertaken in the year, which resulted in an overall saving on interest costs and reduction in risk. The report provides the Section 151 officer assurance that activity was in line with the SIPFA Code of Practice and the Council's approved Treasury management strategy. I ask you to, obviously move the recommendations, just ask to receive and note the Treasury Management Annual Report for 22-23. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand. Please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. As no one wishes to speak on this item, Councillor Butland, you've reserved your right to speak, would you?
Quite happy. No comments,
Quite
Madam
happy,
Chairman.
no comments, thank you. And we will go to the vote now. All those in favour, please indicate. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The item has been approved. We'll now move to agenda item 14, dispensation under section 85 of the Local Government Act 1972. Members, this item is set out on pages 190 to 193 of the agenda. Are you happy with that, number 14? Yes. Please can I invite Councillor Butland, Leader of the Council, to introduce the report.
Sorry, Madam Chairman. Is it item 13? Unlucky for some, I know, but...
My apologies.
Apologies. There's two items with the Treasury title, so I think we've just jumped.
We've just
2 minutes of duplication.
Here we are. So we're back to agenda item 13. I think Councillor Bowers is going to speak on this item now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'm just introducing the Treasury Management mid-year report for 23-24, and I formally move the recommendation as set out on page 183 of tonight's agenda. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. You've moved and recommendations on page 183 of the agenda. Please, could we have a seconder?
Formally seconded, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Button. Do you reserve your right to speak?
Yes, please.
Councillor Bowers, would you like to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, this report constitutes the mid-year report on Treasury Management activities for 23-24 financial year. The report was initially considered at the meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee on the 4th of October 2023. The report details the external context for Treasury Management, including updates on some regulatory changes by the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities. The report confirms the level of resources held for investment and the investment activity undertaken for the period April to August and the income this has generated. The report also provides an overview of the Council's borrowing and changes in year to the end of August. This report confirms the activity in the period in line with SIPFA Code of Practice and the Council approved Treasury Management Strategy. Council is asked to note the report, mid-year report for 23-24. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you've been acknowledged. Councillor Van Dunk. Councillor Van Dunkel, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. In a context, national context, when so many other authorities have financial issues and large, unprecedentedly high debts, they're strangled by them, and the interest rates are, of course, much higher, so the problem's got worse. It's very, very gratifying to see that our relatively small borrowings are being decreased on an annual basis. And I thank the financial team involved in putting this into place. It puts us in a, it's just one large issue which is less of an issue for us going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dunkel. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? I don't believe so. Thank you. Members, this report is for noting. Please can members indicate by a show of hands that this report has been noted. Thank you, members. We'll now deal with agenda item 14, dispensation under section 85 of the Local Government Act 1972. Members, this item is set out on pages 190 to 193 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Butland, Leader of the Council, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the recommendations contained in paragraph 2 on page 190.
Councillor Butland has moved the recommendations as set out on page 190 of the agenda. Please can we have a seconder?
Formally seconded, Madam Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, do you wish to reserve your right?
Reserved right, thank you.
I will now invite Councillor Butland to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Some members will be aware that Councillor Pell has, in the last couple of weeks, undergone major surgery and, in fact, has not been able to attend a meeting of this council since the council meeting on the 17th of July. Under the regulations, if a member doesn't attend for 6 months, they forfeit their seat. That is not something that we would wish with Councillor Pell. Since the 17th of July, I have kept in regular contact with her, and indeed I spoke with her this morning. She, I would describe as being in combative mood and can't wait to get back, but I'm hoping that there are people who are advising her accordingly. We'd be delighted to see her back, but I hope members will support this, that this will give her sufficient time to be able to come back as robustly as we know she can be in this chamber. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hands. No. No one wishes to speak on this item. Councillor Cunningham, as you've seconded the recommendations, reserving your right to speak. Please, can I invite you to speak now?
Nothing else to add, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Butland, as the proposer of the recommendation, would you like to reply? Well, there's nothing to reply to. So we will now move to the vote. Thank you, members. The recommendation set out on page 190 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please indicate. I believe that's unanimous. Thank you very much. We all wish Councillor Pell a speedy recovery. Thank you, members. We'll now deal with agenda item 15, change to the Cabinet portfolios. Members, this item is set out on pages 194 to 198 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Butland, Leader of the Council, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move the recommendation contained in paragraph 2 on page 194 of the report.
Very good. Councillor Butland has moved the recommendation as set out on page 194 of the agenda. Please could we have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Chairman. Reserve right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Butland.
Very briefly, Madam Chairman, as members know, Councillor Cunningham is now the Cabinet Member for Highways at the County Council. There are two elements in his current portfolio here relating to car parks and highways. It is felt inappropriate and a potential conflict of interest if he was to continue to cover those matters here at Braintree District Council. And so just for the remainder of this civic year, I will have the delights of attending the North Essex Parking Partnership and taking responsibility for those two items, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, indicate by raising your hand. No one wishes to speak. This report, thank you, members. This report is for noting. Please can members indicate by a show of hands that this report has been noted. It's unanimous. Thank you, members. We will now move to agenda item 16, Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report 2022-23. Members, this item is set out on pages 199 to 215 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Wrench, Chairman of Governance and Audit Committee, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. And please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the recommendations as set out on page 199 of tonight's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wrench. Could I have a seconder, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I now invite Councillor Wrench to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The annual report of the Governance and Audit Committee summarises the committee's work and the achievements relating to its audit role for 2022-2023. It is intended to reassure Council and other stakeholders that the committee is undertaking its responsibilities properly and in a way which allows it to exercise effective oversight and demonstrate to the district's residents and other stakeholders the importance that the Council places on good governance, openness and probity in public life. The report sets out the contribution to the committee in making and achieving those aims. The committee's meetings are open to the public and its reports are available on the Council's website. To provide ongoing assurance over the Council's internal controls and systems, the committee meetings in 2022-23 were attended by the Chief Executive, Corporate Director, Head of Finance, the Audit, Insurance and Fraud Manager, the Financial Services Manager and Committee Services, as well as representatives from BDO, the Council's external auditor. Other Council officers attend the committee meetings as required. Operating effectively, the work of the Governance and Audit Committee will enhance corporate awareness of the need for internal control and implementation of agreed audit recommendations, increase public confidence in the objectivity and fairness of the financial and other reporting, reinforce the importance and independence of internal financial and other reporting, and external audit and other similar review processes, and provide additional assurance for its processes of independent and objective review. Before I end, Madam Chairman, I would like to express my thanks to those officers and members who have supported the work of this committee by presenting, discussing and challenging reports, and engaging in training and improvement activity to develop the knowledge and skills for this key area of the Council's arrangement for effective governance.
Thank you, Councillor Wrench. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, indicate by raising your hand. No? No one wishes to speak. Thank you, members. This report is for noting. Please can members indicate by a show of hands that this report has been noted. Oh, I apologise. Councillor Edwards, did you raise your hand to speak? You did indeed. I'm so sorry. Please continue.
No worries at all. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll keep my remarks very brief as I know we're running quite late. I'd just like to extend my own personal thanks to Phil Myers and Angie Mitchell. As someone new to the world of governance and auditing, they have been absolutely fantastic in getting the committee up to speed on the Council's finances. I like to think of them as sort of a Bonnie and Clyde double act in our committee, although rather than committing financial impropriety, they are very much safeguarding against it, I can assure you. Councillors will see from the Treasury Management report this evening that this is a financially well-run council, and I'm very grateful for their support in allowing members from across the chamber to scrutinise in a bipartisan and diligent way those accounts, and I look forward to continuing to do so in the year ahead. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. The report is now for noting. Please could members indicate by a show of hands that this report has been noted. Thank you very much. That's everybody. Thank you very much. The report has been duly noted. Members, we will now deal with agenda item 17, award of contracts for new commercial vehicles. Members, this item is set out on pages 216 to 217 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Butland, Leader of the Council, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the recommendation in paragraph 2 on page 216. Yes, so I move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Do I have a seconder, please?
Formally second, Madam Chairman, and reserve right.
Thank you. I now invite Councillor Butland to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm pleased to say this is not a provision in the Constitution that we use very frequently. But on this occasion, given the circumstances which are outlined in paragraph 3, which would have meant if we had delayed a decision, there would have been an extra cost to our taxpayers of £72,000 on the purchase of the 13 vehicles in the report. I felt, on the advice of the monitoring officer, that I was prepared to take a decision under the Constitution, but that clearly that should come to this Council to be noted, and I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak now or after questions?
I've got nothing else to add, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on this item? No, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Butland. This report is for noting. Please can members indicate by a show of hands that this report has been noted? That's noted, everyone. Thank you very much. The report has been noted. Thank you, members. This item concludes the business for this evening. Thank you, members, for your attendance and participation at this evening's meeting, and to those watching on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of this meeting will be published on the Council's YouTube channel as soon as possible. As this is our last meeting of full Council before Christmas and 2024, I would like to close this meeting wishing you all a happy Christmas and best wishes to you and your families for a prosperous new year. I will now formally close this meeting of full Council at 21:36.